Time of her life. Chapter 1. The magic of the middle of nowhere. I always thought being a free spirit made me lovable, until someone handed it back to me like a flaw. In my head, I was that charming, wind in her hair kind of girl, the one who wore mismatched earrings on purpose and always found the best natural light for wedding shots, even if it meant climbing onto a hay bale in a dress. I was artsy. I was different. People loved that about me. At least I thought they did. Spearfish, South Dakota had become my sanctuary, a town just crunchy enough for kombucha on tap, just old enough for handwritten thank you notes. It was the kind of place where a photographer like me could thrive, unconventional, intuitive, and a little all over the place in the best way. My clients said I brought magic to their weddings. Real, lived-in magic. Not Pinterest perfect, but the kind that made people cry. But lately, the magic was running on fumes. If this story is already tugging at something in you, hit that subscribe button. We share real, raw, and inspiring stories every week, the kind that stay with you long after the video ends. So if you're into heartfelt journeys and gentle breakthroughs, you're in the right place. My camera battery died mid-shoot last Tuesday. I double-booked a cake smash and a bridal consult this week before. And yesterday, I showed up at the wrong venue, wrong time, wrong bride. Even for me, it was a lot. Still, I clung to the narrative. I was a creative. We're not known for punctuality. We're known for making things beautiful, even if we're 10 minutes late to the party. This morning started like most do. Barefoot, bedhead, soundtrack of birds, and espresso machine. I lit my eucalyptus candle, popped 3 blueberry Pop-Tarts into the toaster, 1 for now, 2 for the road, and opened Lightroom to edit the Johnson wedding. I even felt ahead of the game. A little smug, honestly, but maybe, just maybe, I was turning over a new leaf. Then my phone buzzed. Meeting with Kira, 10:30 a.m., the Grindhouse Cafe. I looked at the clock. 10:47. Crap. I grabbed my bag and sprinted down the stairs, skipping every other one, praying she was still there, that I could charm my way out of this like I always had. But when I burst into the Grindhouse, breathless and sweaty, Kira was gone. The table was empty except for a coffee cup and a neatly folded napkin. I knew before I even picked it up. Trilby, I really wanted to work with you, but this is the 3rd time. I need someone I can count on. Wish you the best, Kira. I just stood there, napkin in hand, the kind of humiliated that makes your stomach ache. The barista, Nate, cinnamon eyes and sleeve tattoos, gave me that soft, awkward smile people use when they don't know whether to hug you or pretend you're not falling apart. I walked home slow. There's a specific kind of heartbreak when you realize your quirkiness has tipped into unreliability, that you've confused chaos for charm and people are too polite to tell you it's not cute anymore. Back in my apartment, I stared at my laptop. I wasn't editing. I wasn't backing up files or writing captions or doing any of the other 1,000 takes my business needed. I was Googling, how do I get my ADHD under control without losing my soul? Eventually, I opened Facebook. My fingers hovered for a second. Then I typed, how do you ADHD queens keep a schedule without feeling like your soul is being crushed? Serious question. I'm drowning. And I hit post in the ADHD for Smartass Women group before I could overthink it. Maybe it was time, not to become someone different, but to finally show up as the version of me people could count on. And maybe that's what real freedom looks like. Chapter 2, Replies, Resistance, and Red Sharpie. You know how people say, don't read the comments? Yeah, they're not wrong. I woke up the next morning to 87 notifications and 3 friend requests from strangers who probably also had 5 planners and no plan. The post had blown up. There were the usual suspects, the digital sticker lovers, the bullet journal evangelists, the color code your whole life and it'll change everything crowd. And then there are the ones like me, women who'd tried all that and still felt like their brain was trying to DJ 5 songs at once while someone screamed, urgent email, in the background. I clicked on one reply, then another, and then spiraled into an accidental 2-hour scroll. There was something comforting about it, not just the tips, but the confessions. Women like me, smart and messy and trying their best. Women who missed vet appointments and cried in parking lots and bought 15 calendars because each one might be the one. I grabbed a marker, a red Sharpie I found under the couch, thank you very much, and wrote 3 things on the whiteboard by my desk. 1. Stop pretending you're not drowning. 2. Pick one calendar system. 3. Actually use it. The last one was underlined 3 times. I sat there staring at the board like it might sprout arms and fix my life for me. I don't want to become one of those people, I muttered aloud. The one with rigid schedules and 30-minute blocks and intentional snack times. I said intentional snack times like it was a curse word. But deep down, I knew this wasn't about becoming someone else. It was about stopping the slow leak of self-trust, because that's what happens when you say you'll do something. Show up, call back, send the invoice, and you don't. Your clients stop trusting you. Worse, you stop trusting you. I spent the afternoon trying out a digital planner someone in the group swore by. I hated it. I downloaded an app that was supposed to gamify productivity and promptly forgot my login. Finally, I went back to what I always resisted, a paper planner. I cracked open the one I'd bought 3 months ago but never touched. Its pages were clean, hopeful, like it believed in me when even I didn't. I wrote one thing in the Saturday box. Bridal consult, Bethany, 11 a.m., the Nest Cafe. And then, just below it in parentheses, leave house by 10:15, Trilby. You know how you are. I stared at that tiny square for a long time. Like maybe, if I wrote it clearly enough, I could become the kind of person who showed up with some time to spare, who brought not just creativity, but calm. Someone people could count on. Someone I could count on. I didn't know if the planner would work. I didn't know if I'd stick with it. But for once, I wasn't relying on the chaos to carry me. I was making a plan. And that felt like the first promise I'd kept to myself in a long time. Chapter 3. Not late, just early-ish. I showed up 10 minutes early to Bethany's bridal consult and didn't know what to do with myself. I kept checking the time, not because I was worried I was late, but because I couldn't believe I wasn't. The cafe was quiet, tucked into the back of a renovated barn with mismatched chairs and a latte foam artist who took himself very seriously. It was perfect. I sat down with my oat milk chai and pulled out the same planner I'd finally written in the day before. Like maybe if I held it, I'd keep absorbing its responsible energy. Bethany arrived right on time, and I stood to greet her like I was a professional or something. She had strawberry blonde hair, perfectly symmetrical eyebrows, and a binder labeled Wedding War Plans, which both impressed and terrified me. "You're early," she said, clearly surprised. I smiled. "New thing I'm trying." She raised an eyebrow, but didn't question it. The meeting went great, like really great. We talked shot lists and timelines and if I'd be willing to hang out in the dressing room with her bridesmaids. "Only if you're cool with real talk and deodorant-stained dresses," I'd replied, and she laughed so hard she snorted. We clicked. I felt like myself again, the good version, the one who shows up with her lens cap off and her game face on. By the time she signed the contract and handed over the deposit, I felt something I hadn't felt in a while. Capable. Of course, as soon as I got home, I opened my planner to bask in the satisfaction of having completed a task like a grown-up, only to realize I'd accidentally scheduled 2 sessions for the same Saturday in 2 different towns. I stared at the pages like they had betrayed me. "No," I said out loud. "Not today, Satan." I took a breath, picked up a pen, and rescheduled one of the shoots like an actual business owner. No tears, no panic spiral, no telling myself I'm just not cut out for this. It was hard. My brain screamed that I'd probably mess something else up, that clients would eventually see through my organized charade, that I couldn't possibly keep this up. But another part of me, quieter, steadier, whispered, "You're learning, that's all." And maybe that voice was the one I needed to listen to more often, because it turns out showing up on time isn't just for them. It's for me. It's proof that I can be the artist and the adult, the dreamer and the doer. Maybe I don't have to pick a side after all. Still with us? This is the kind of story we share every week. Hit subscribe to follow along. Chapter 4. Don't tell me what to do, even if it's me. I made it a whole 5 days before the rebellion kicked in. At first, the planner felt like magic. I was showing up early. Clients were happy. I even remembered to bring snacks to a 3-hour shoot instead of crashing halfway through and eating the bridesmaid's emergency trail mix. I started to think, maybe I'm finally one of those women who gets her life together in her late 20s. But then Tuesday happened. I woke up to a calendar full of colored blocks and a brain that said, nope. It wasn't even anything dramatic, just normal stuff. Edit engagement photos, send a contract, call my sister back. But looking at that tiny little schedule, I felt trapped, like the boxes were tiny cages and I was the monkey expected to perform. Suddenly, I was 16 again, glaring at a chore chart taped to the fridge. The planner was supposed to help me feel free, not like someone else's employee, especially when that someone else was me. I slammed it shut and declared the day unscheduled, rebellious, wild, free. Except I spent the first 3 hours doom scrolling, the next 2 trying to decide if I should reorganize my pantry. No. And the last chunk frantically editing photos I should have finished yesterday. By 7 p.m., I was lying on the floor in a sea of lens caps, sticky notes, and mild self-loathing. That's when my phone pinged with a message from Bethany. Hey, just wanted to confirm Saturday. Still good for you at the Nest at 11? Crap. I hadn't double-checked the location. My brain panicked. Had I written it wrong? Had I confirmed? I checked the planner. There it was. Clear as day. Saturday. The Nest. 11 a.m. Same Bethany. Same address. I exhaled so hard I startled my cat. Okay, I thought. Maybe having a plan isn't the problem. Maybe my resistance is. I opened my laptop once again and typed a new post in the ADHD for Smartass Women group. Okay, real talk. Does anybody else feel personally attacked by their own calendar? Like it's bossing you around even when you made it yourself? The replies came fast. Yes, literally argued with myself this morning. I changed the color coding to trick my brain into thinking it's new. Try naming your calendar something sassy like Freedom Framework or My Hot Girl Agenda. Works 20% of the time. I laughed out loud, alone, which felt like progress, because maybe this wasn't about becoming perfect. Maybe it was about making peace with structure, reclaiming it, making it mine. Not a cage, not a curse, just scaffolding, so the artist in me could build something real. Chapter 5, When the Grid Gives You Wings. It was Nate, the barista with the cinnamon eyes, who dropped the line and cracked me wide open. You seem more grounded lately, he said, sliding me a drink with a crooked smile. Did you start meditating or something? I blinked. No, just started using a planner. He raised an eyebrow. Like one of the old school paper ones? Yep. Pen, paper, stickers I swore I'd never use. I took a sip of my lavender latte. It's mildly humiliating how effective it is. Nate chuckled. Sometimes structure's just scaffolding for the good stuff. I stared at him. What? He said. My mom's a painter. She used to say rules aren't there to cage you. They're there so you don't fall off the roof while you're building the cathedral. I had no idea it was a real quote or just something poetic he pulled out of his flannel sleeve, but it hit me right in the soul. I walked home in the crisp air, repeating that line in my head. Scaffolding for the good stuff. Back in my apartment, I opened my laptop, pulled up Lightroom, and started editing the Morrison wedding. Normally, editing felt like swimming through honey, sticky and slow and too easy to drown in. But today, I opened my calendar and blocked off exactly 90 minutes. No distractions, no checking my phone every 6 seconds, and something wild happened. I got in the zone. Not the manic, hyper-focused zone where I forget to pee and look up 6 hours later wondering what year it is, but the flow zone. Calm, intentional, creative. When the timer went off, I stopped. Like a sane person. And instead of crashing into a bowl of tortilla chips and self-reproach, I stood up, stretched, and made myself a real lunch. Quinoa and everything. I didn't even burn it. I kept waiting for the other shoe to drop, for the rebellion to surge back in, for the spiral, the crash. But it didn't. Not that day. Because maybe Nate was right. Maybe the grid wasn't the enemy. Maybe it was a gift. A skeleton key to unlock the part of me that could be trusted with big dreams. And maybe, just maybe, I'd been looking at the whole thing upside down. What if structure wasn't the opposite of creativity? What if it was the doorway? Chapter 6, A Calendar and a Compass. Bethany's wedding day arrived with a cloudless sky and a playlist I'd actually curated ahead of time. I had backup batteries, backup memory cards, backup snacks. Even my bangs were cooperating. I got to the venue 25 minutes early, not because I was panicking, but because I wanted to. I wanted time to breathe, to soak it in, to get the vibe before the first shot. Bethany hugged me when I arrived. You are seriously the most chill, prepared photographer I've ever met. I almost laughed. If only she knew that 6 weeks ago. I was crying on the floor over a napkin. The day went flawlessly, not because everything was perfect. The flower girl lost a shoe and the groom's uncle tried to direct me during portraits, but because I had margin, time, grace, a plan. That night after the dance and the sparkler send-off, I packed up my gear, sat in the car, and cried. Not because I was overwhelmed, but because I wasn't. And for someone like me, that was revolutionary. Back at home, I curled up with a cup of tea and opened my planner. Not because I had to, because I wanted to. I flipped through the pages, fingers trailing over ink and sticky notes and check marks. This wasn't a cage. This was a journal of self-trust, a roadmap of my growth. Then I opened my phone and typed one last post in the ADHD for Smartass Women group. I used to think a calendar would suffocate me. Turns out it was the oxygen mask. When I knew what was coming, I could finally breathe. I don't have it all together, but now I know where to look. Comments rolled in fast, hearts, high fives, crying face emojis, but I didn't need their validation anymore. This was mine. I closed my planner and looked around my tiny apartment, the plants thriving in the sunlight, the art I'd actually framed instead of leaning against the wall, the schedule taped to the fridge that said I was finally showing up for my own life. It didn't make me less creative. It didn't kill my wild. It focused it. Because freedom isn't the absence of structure. It's the peace that comes from knowing where you're going and why you're going there. And maybe, just maybe, that's what it means to grow up without giving up who you are. If this story spoke to you, there's more where that came from. Go ahead and hit subscribe so you don't miss the next chapter in this journey or the next story that just might be yours in disguise. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you in the next one.